transform this food platform, because a lot of people have habits that they've had for years. Oh, I've always eaten this. Oh, I can't stop eating that. Oh, I can't do without that. And so how do you cross this barrier and make it happen?
Well, it's having a Harriet Tubman mindset that we're going to free some people, but we know we couldn't free everybody off the plantation. And so for us...
I like that.
I love
Whoa.
it. That answers me because it's been my whole life experience.
It's like a poetry right there.
Yes.
Most definitely. And so that means changing the image and narrative. I mean, if you were to Google Black women in agriculture or nutrition even a decade ago, who would want to be in a field that was associated with tropes and stereotypes like Ain't Your Mama, I would say, is not my mama. And we wanted to realize that we need to create queens of greens, green goddesses. If you uplift and amplify and the rich royalty and legacy that our people were brought here to the Americas to help build their food system, that understanding that history is the critical part of closing that gap of why we are so vital and critical to not only the food system here, but building and amplifying what is happening on the continent around the land grabs and the opportunities to help preserve Pan-African food culture worldwide.
Wow. Solange is our colleague. She's also a journalist, but she left us and came back to visit. She's not supposed to be here, really, but we just asked her to come anyway because we love her so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
She was here that she left. Oh, my God. You left for like 5 years, right?
Yeah, 5 years.
5 years she was out of this place. Yeah. It's good so fast. Solange, do you have any questions for our guest tonight?
It's so inspiring, and I'm just curious to know, because I know in the US the food is very different from the continent.
Totally.
Yeah, you guys, you always eat junk food.
Hey, don't put down our food, man. We like our burgers.
No, junk food. And you know, when I look at my grandma, they used to live long because they were eating good food.
Right.
But today, I mean, how can we bring it back, you know, especially for people who are here in the US? Because you said about organic food, but organic food is not available for everyone. It's very expensive.
You mean in the US, right?
In the US, for sure.
Of course.
Yeah. So how you guys, what do you do, you know, to help people to eat healthy food, good food at affordable price?
Right. Well, policy is a critical part of that, of changing the food apartheid. Food apartheid is when we have structural inequities that create roadblocks of opportunities for women and everyday people to be able to have access to healthy foods. And so that's why we're spearheading a food bill of rights during this time at Congress and at the local level, and galvanizing women to get behind that. Once we educate you, we now need to learn to advocate to change the community conditions that we have. And that is the critical part, because you can have all agency in the world and want to do better, but if your community around you is still suffering and doesn't have the infrastructure to support the change that you want, this is how nothing truly is substantially happening. And so, by the record, my grandma is 96 years old in Oklahoma, was very much a nurse and lived on the farm, and she too has benefited from living that rural life. And I would say that there's many of us who still want to take on that role of what it means to be more connected to the land, but we're all part of a larger experiment of post-industrialization that is coming to Africa as well, as KFCs are popping up in South Africa and Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, and poultry farms are now being cropped up. So they're coming for you too. So This is the unfortunate part of why we have to work together across the Atlantic, and why Wanda has this Pan-African vision of women, because this is so critical of changing our minds, changing our bodies, and changing our communities together.
It's the same. I will interject that the last visit I went to Trinidad, I crossed the whole country, and the issue of agriculture was really huge, because fewer people were growing food. They were importing food now. Yes. I would go to a supermarket and see food importing from other places. I'm talking about greens, carrots, local vegetables that were no longer on the market, or not in sufficient number to supply regular Trinidadians.
Yeah.
And I asked my father, I said, what's going on? And he was saying, everybody's focused on oil industry and all of this, and because we have money, let's just import.
Exactly.
And so people are forgetting how to grow food.
And local food production is going down in the global south. Puerto Rico is a great example, and part of it is the trade policies that are being created between different countries, the U.S. and the North America and abroad. And so these trade deals is critical because ultimately it impacts everyday people.
Of course it does.
And you find ways to get around it, but people have to know policy and advocate for the change.
Right.
Is so critical.
Yeah. Before we move on to my song, and I'm glad you telling us about this, Tambra, but could you tell us about some challenges, right, that you actually have encountered, while promoting the African, if I should call it diaspora, or the diaspora take, if that word exists even, food, or as Solange was mentioning, how our grandmother used to eat the more, how do you call it? Organic, you mentioned food, but what are the challenges that you encounter actually, while trying to promote that? Do you encounter any? I'm sure you do, because, and I'm going to add to that question. I see you're on Congress all the time. You talk to the politicians. You into that? Do you fight, or do you take that to at the higher level for them to listen to you and help out in some way?
Well, I would say that for every challenge presents an opportunity. If you take maybe 10 years ago when I first was getting into just educating people on the community level around African foods, yes, it was quite, challenging. But now that you have Wakanda, you have High on the Hog on Netflix winning the Peabody Award, you have books like Black Food, and more publications are coming out in media to help change the narrative and change the discourse, makes for a ripe opportunity for this to continue to move up. Chef Pierre with Yolele Foods is another
Chef
great
Pierre,
example.
that's right.
And so for us, for this is the moment to build this movement of not only supporting our food culture, but ultimately you're supporting the people. If anything, my largest concern is making sure that we're part of it, the economic engine that is being created around these foods, because as everyone knows, we have climate issues, and a lot of the African crops are climate smart ag products. And when you think of fonio and millet and so many different crops that we know that we should be a part of producing not only strong communities and healthy, sustainable ones, but economic opportunities. And so we need to be at the decision making, being the entrepreneurs at the seat of this change that's happening right now.
Very important. Let's breathe with some music. George is like, you got to listen to this song. I love it. Music is right now.
Good for you, I guess you moved on really easily. You found a new girl and it only took a couple weeks. Remember when you said that you wanted to give me the world? And good for you, I guess that you've been working on yourself. I guess the therapist I found for you should really help. Now you can be a better man for your brand new girl. For you, I guess you're getting everything you want. You bought a new car and your career's really taking off. It's like we never even happened, baby. Tell me what is up with that? And good for you, it's like you never even met me. Remember when you swore to God I was the only person who ever got you? Well, screw that and screw you. You will never have to hurt the way you know that I do. Well, good for you, you look happy and healthy. Not me, if you ever cared to ask. Good for you, you're doing great out there without me, baby. God, I wish that I could do that. I lost my mind, I've spent the night crying on the floor of my bedroom. But you're so unaffected, I really don't get it. But I guess good for you.
Good for you, bien sûr, vous écoutez. I like to switch. When I switch French and English, this is what happened.
I know.
You laugh at me all the time.
No,
because of the,
I'm the same. I understand.
you know, last time I was there and I'll do the same thing. I'm like, switch every time coming from French to English. I'm like, vous écoutez. All right.
But we're very blessed.
Thank God we're blessed, but we also have a guest who speaks French, so why not? That helps.
Comme ci, comme ça.
I love the comme ci, comme ça.
I love the comme ci, comme ça part. Tambra, tell us a little bit about the Food Bill of Rights. I love that.
Yes, it goes to this idea again, what do we value? We know the UN Declaration of Human Rights speaks of right to food, yet as a country here in the U.S., we've not adapted and really nailed down what those values should be. We have conversations and controversy around should we have universal school meals and all these issues, and so the Food Bill of Rights gets to the heart. If we truly value the right to food for people that helps our planet and still helps create profit opportunities, this is something that we should be adopting as a country, and then every municipality here in the District of Columbia and beyond. And so I serve on a DC Food Policy Council as well as the USDA NARI Advisory Board. And so we've been part of, at American University, hosting a Farm Bill Summit to encourage and really go and educate Congress members around the importance of adopting a Farm Bill of Rights, even as a preamble in the Farm Bill, and if not a separate resolution that can be put forth and adopted, because it helps to arm consumers and everyday food citizens to understand what their rights are and to know what they should demand for. And so just to share with the audience some of those rights, we say the first article is that we have the right to food that values biodiversity, sustainability, and well-being to achieve optimal wellness. Who wouldn't want to agree with that? And Article 2 is about the right to equitable access to safe, cultural, affordable, and nourishing food and nutrition education. We need to be educated. 3 is about the civic and economic participation in the food system, that it shouldn't just be industry, it should also be everyday people who should be able to create a livelihood and having a fair food environment for those who are labor workers in this space. And then 5th is about reclaiming and reproducing our heritage foods, the values and history and knowledge. We have this whole fight around what is African food. If we had knowledge access in our classrooms, we would know that. And if not, this is an entrepreneurial opportunity. Yep. 6 is about resisting any narrative and social, economic, and health labor conditions that limit our food freedom. And lastly, it's about the right to receive and give food with respect and dignity. So people can go to iamwanda.org/Food Bill of Rights, sign the petition that we've put forward to President Biden. But ultimately, we are looking forward to pushing through every jurisdiction, and we need food freedom fighters on the front line to help move this policy forward across this country. And for those on the continent in Africa, I think this is an opportunity of how could the Food Bill of Rights be adopted in your own communities as food justice issues are coming forward. When you think about Accra, those who are working in McCullough markets and so forth, you're competing against grocery stores, but women who are working in these markets are microfood entrepreneurs that should not be shut out of economic opportunities as industries are forming. And so how do we give protections? What are the local food policy councils that even exist in those communities? And if it does not, if there's no Accra Food Policy Council, there should be one. Everyday people should be a part of that and advocate for democracy that comes in the form of food participation.
Well, let me get back to the, I guess it was Article 6, right? The right to resist any narrative of social, economic, or health, right? And condition the limit of food freedom. Any narrative that you can tell us about?
The Ancient Mama one is a great one that I brought up earlier around when we think about images. I remember first learning about Tintin, the character, and Tintin in the Congo. And when I think about those images that look very naive, but actually are very deceptive in its portrayal of Africans and African foodways, and in a way that would create food shaming in a culture where you would want to adopt Western foods as being superior. And so ultimately these narratives speak to a power struggle between who is more dominant and superior over others, and food becomes an expression of that power. It's a form of soft power. And so that is the narrative in which we need to fight back against. So meaning you should not have shame eating your your bowl of greens and fufu, or eating your watermelon or okra or gumbo. And when you put shame and portrayal in a very negative way in the media, in these cartoon images that go back to the early 1900s in the children's books, it plants a seed in the mind that these are the foods, of the forbidden foods, the hunger foods, the hidden foods. And that was very well documented in the National Academy of Sciences in their 3-part series about lost crops of Africa, how they were negatively being portrayed. And so for us, is part of fighting back is changing that image and saying our foods are superior. And do the research why we have a Black food census right now out. We want to collect the data to change the policy, change the programs. We want more investment research in African foodways here in the U.S. because we know there's a narrative of the West is best than the rest of us, and that's false. And so and we know it's false because everyone is trying to go to Africa, get the land, grow their own crops, ship it back to their own countries.
Right.
And so why not be a part of the change that we need? And that means honoring and valuing everything that already is within us.
Right. Michelle, I know you had a question and you had a story to tell us, I think you were saying earlier.
Oh, okay. Earlier, it was a trip to Cape Town, and my sister and I noticed that every house, whether sumptuous or more humble, had a little garden in front. If there was any plot of land, there was food growing there. Not flowers, food.
Food,
cabbage,
no flowers. Wow.
Cabbage, kale.
Maybe I need to start out in my yard.
Spinach, collard greens, etc. Even if it was a small, tiny square,
but still,
food was growing there.
Yeah.
And they put that in place. And I think it was led by a woman, of course.
There you go.
Who went door to door. Look, we can all do this. We can all do this. Here are the seeds. We can even come with dirt if you need extra dirt. And we can break up cement if cement needs to be broken up. Everyone needs to have the basics at home because they were running out of water and other issues. And they said, well, we can't run out of our basic foods. Everybody needs greens, onions, these things we can grow. And it was really amazing.
Yeah, it builds
community. So it made me think,
yeah.
wow, we can do that here too in the U.S. Even apartment complexes have all these lands
That's
behind.
Right. That's right.
And if someone in that apartment if there was such a thing as, okay, everyone that lives in there has a right to 6 foot by 6, a little piece of land, and you grow, your greens, your tomatoes, your onions. It would be an amazing thing.
Yep.
And the land is there. But my issue is the land contaminated? Because sometimes
that is another good question.
The land is not healthy.
Yep.
Well, every
That's a good question.
Every state has a land grant institution with cooperative extension services, such as for the District of Columbia, that's UDC, University of District of Columbia, and their College of Agriculture, Urban Sustainability, and Environmental Sciences, where they do soil testing, and residents can go to their government institutions, and your taxes are paying for it, and to be able to have them come and test. So these are resources that
really
should be aware of. People can go to programs that's funded through USDA.
Right.
My other question was, there are many African food stores and Caribbean stores in this area because we have a large community of expats and diaspora people from those areas. Is there any way to start creating partnerships, inviting in more African Americans or people who are not so familiar with African foods, and creating days where, okay, food tasting today. This is how fonio is, and this is how it tastes when we make these dishes, or gari fufu with egusi soup and so on. Come in. I mean, it would be fascinating to be part of such a bridge mission where there would be, just like Costco's and all these huge big stores, they have food tasting. You go in there, and so this is how this tastes, etc. I think it would be great, and I'm just coming up with this idea now, because I go to the African food store to get my supplies. I go to the Caribbean store get my supplies, and I'm not thinking. Okay, how does an American who didn't grow up with that, how do they begin to form that relationship if they don't have friends cooking for them, or, they may have tasted egusi soup or ugali and sukuma wiki at a friend's house, but how do they now go to shop for the maize and the all of that. How do they know what to do? So it would be lovely to have a committee that would go to these stores and say, hey, we want more integration. We want to really bring more people into here, not just the people who know why they're coming in here.
Exactly.
Which is the case.
And it creates more market-based opportunities.
Yes, definitely.
And that's partly why at our Sisterhood Supper Juneteenth celebration that we've done 3 years in the row now, we partner and bring in chefs from Africa as well as the diaspora to help create the meal. So we had everything from the Nigerian jollof rice to plantain breads, as well as salads and the hibiscus drinks, the ginger drinks, because
You're making me hungry.
that's what we're doing.
All of us are hungry now.
We're culturally engineering, right? This
Absolutely.
idea of not only bringing African diaspora women together, but the foods that represent their culture to have those conversations. Because if we can break fufu together, then what else can we do together?
Oh, that's definitely the big bridge.
That's the big bridge. I'm going to let's launch this question, but before that, you mentioning Juneteenth, and I'm glad you are mentioning that because we just celebrated a few days ago. How can we use Juneteenth, as, and I'm sure you're using it already, but I just want you to tell us a little more. Use it as an opportunity to actually educate, right, and raise awareness about African American history itself, and also an ongoing fight against like racial injustice and things like that.
Most definitely. I say if February is Black History Month, June is the takeover for Black Futures Month. Because when you think about Juneteenth, once enslaved Africans were free in the U.S., the goal was to find your family members that were sold off, and how do you reunite, where our own family consistently has family reunions back home in Oklahoma and circulated across the U.S. With planning committees. It's a big thing. And for us, it's kind of like that's where it starts. How do you find family, build community? But then the other part that we have historians. How do you relearn the education and history about your family and community that was intentionally disassociated with you? And so the other part is food. How can food also be a symbol of that freedom? Freedom came in many different forms: freedom of movement, freedom of expression, freedom of creativity, and freedom to live life on your own terms without any regrets. And so there's many ways in which we can express what Juneteenth is, but for us, it's about honoring those Black women who have been the hidden figures, like my family member Henrietta, who was still enslaved in 1903, and be able to share and show and amplify Black women food entrepreneurs. And that's why we're holding Wanda Week this week, proclaimed by Mayor Bowser last year as an opportunity to say, how do we pay up and promote Black women food entrepreneurs, because they not only hold critical roles in our families, but also in our communities, helping to uplift our culture and society, but also our economy. And to think very intentional of what does a local Black food economy look like, and how do we shape it, and how do we build the infrastructure around it, is what we think about at Wanda.
Wow. Solange.
Yeah, I would like to know if Wanda is in some of the African countries.
You want to be a representative?
Oh, why not?
She might want to move again.
Hey, that's right. Who knows?
No, because you are doing a great job, and today Africa, we feel like we are getting attacked, with this junky food restaurant that are coming.
You are.
And also, the way that we used to do agriculture is changing now, because they're bringing like seed, they're bringing things that's is not good for us. So I would like to know how Wanda can help Africa now today, to change things before it gets too late.
Most definitely. We are definitely wanting and expanding Wanda. We first began in Nigeria with creating Wanda books, that are bilingual books that with a character, Little Wanda, who was born out of Nigeria, to help celebrate and uplift not only big Wandas, who are the farmers and entrepreneurs in the community, but also the African foods in the community as well, and have it available like in English and Hausa, and so and provide it to the local schools. And so I think there's a great opportunity to build communities of women who not only support themselves, but also plant the seeds in the next generation of food heroes like Little Wandas. So since the pandemic, I've been able to go to Morocco and meet women there. Next is Kenya. We make books in the local languages, like in Amharic. Been to Ethiopia twice already, became the North American representative for the African Nutrition Society back in 2018. And so the goal is identify those women who are already the food heroes in the communities, and they can uplift and build that circle of women that they can work together to educate and advocate for the changes that need to happen on the continent as well. So people can learn and follow us across social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and our website at iamwanda.org, and sign up to our newsletter to stay engaged and learn more ways that they can get involved.
The next country I'm inviting is Democratic Republic of Congo. Yeah, we need Wanda too.
Yes,
Yeah.
we need Wanda everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. Wow.
Because every woman is a Wanda woman.
Yes.
I like that.
That's true.
I like that. Now,
Be-
does
Roger,
no, go ahead, please.
Can I just
No.
add something?
No, go
Because
ahead. Okay.
my fear now.
I know you're so interested. I see you bubbling already. I know.
My fear is that in Africa, here at least you have a good health system, because if you,
Questionable.
oh, okay, fine.
It's 7 trillion spending by 2031 on healthcare here.
I mean, compared to Africa,
and we're still not number one.
compared to Africa, because now
Yes.
with this food, I'm afraid that people, they're going to get sick with this, like cancer, different sicknesses.
And that's how the game is played, right? If you look, like Al Jazeera did a great piece about diabetes in India. 1 in 4 Indians have diabetes in the world. And what happened is you're bringing in the junk food through what we would call corporate food imperialism, displacing local food, and then you have pharmaceuticals providing the solution.
Right.
And so it's like hand over fist, like backdoor deals, how is this being made? And the drugs are not regulated. So you're taking combo drugs that would be illegal here that are now freely distributed there through these healthcare clinics. So it has a bigger issue because of the lack of regulation and counterfeit drugs that can happen in countries, and why so many entrepreneurs in the health social space are trying to make an impact. But it's like, are you going to catch up to the speed in which these trade deals are being made? And that's why it's a big fight between people, profit, and planet right now. It's a power struggle, and that's why we have to uplift and amplify and build community at the grassroots level. It's critical.
And sometimes we don't realize, because I just think, when they present us our local food, it's like there are some food my mom eats. I say, mommy, these things, I don't want to eat this, and we don't realize that we are missing something.
You're shaming your own culture while uplifting someone
That's the
else's
culture part,
economic opportunities.
You think that you become civilized when you are eating these chips, French chips and things.
And that's a problem.
They're not healthy.
Yeah, and that's the problem even with the word civilized. I mean, Jamie Oliver went viral in civilizing Ghanaian jollof with the whole hashtag JollofGate, which really created an opportunity for jollof rice to come to the scene, if you think about it. But at the same time, you had African women food bloggers battling out online around like, oh, he's celebrating, leave him alone. But it's like, his insertion of European ingredients, one would say, was civilizing the jollof, because the thought is African foods are what, savage foods? We know they're not. But this is the dynamic that we play into, and I did a whole article and research paper about this. That's why I'm really dedicated to jollof, because it's a signifier to Africa, and it's a signifier to the struggle between the British imperialistic systems and those who are being colonized on the continent. And so do you only embrace because someone who has the platform, the profit, and the power that now has owned this idea of jollof, but on their own terms, but not on your terms?
Right.
So is it really better jollof because of the Jamie way or the African woman way?
Wow, very good question. and I'm glad you actually wrote a paper on this.
Yeah, I'm looking
I gotta read it.
Yeah,
I need to read
I need to
it.
publish it.
Yeah, you should publish it. You should definitely publish it. I'd love to read it. It's great. All right, we'll take a break with some music here before we get back. You're listening to the RM Show at VOA Africa. Tambra Ray Stevenson, who's a nutrition advocate, is our guest tonight. We're so happy to have her tonight. And you guys, you are listening to this show. You can also send your question on +1 703 350 3731.
My girl is banging, she's solo maintenance. Don't need no champagne, poppin' entertainment. Take her to Wendy's, can't keep her off me. She wanna dip me like them fries in her Frosty. But every now and then when I get paid, I gotta spoil my baby with an upgrade. Hey, hey, hey. Yeah, we fancy like Applebee's on a date night. Got that Bourbon Street steak with the Oreo shake and some whipped cream on the top two. 2 straws, 1 check, girl, I got you. Bougie like Natty in the styrofoam. Squeaking in the truck bed all the way home. Some Alabama jammer, she my Dixieland delight. That's how we do, fancy like. Fancy like. Fancy like. Fancy like. Don't need no Tesla to impress her. My girl is happy, rolling on a Vespa. Don't need no mansion to get romancing. She's super fine, double wide, slow dancing. But every now and then when I get paid, I gotta spoil my baby with an upgrade. Hey, hey, hey. Yeah, we fancy like Applebee's on a date night. Got that Bourbon Street steak with the Oreo shake and some whipped cream on the top two. 2 straws, 1 check, girl, I got you. Bougie like Natty in the styrofoam. Squeaking in the truck bed all the way home. Some Alabama jammer, she my Dixieland delight. That's how we do, fancy like my new clean blue jeans without the holes in them. Country kisses on my lips without the skull in them. Yeah, she probably gonna be keeping some Victoria's Secrets. Maybe a little Maybelline, but she don't need it in the kitchen like radio slows down. Box wine, then her updo goes down. Hey, yeah, we fancy like Applebee's on a date night. Got that Bourbon Street steak with the Oreo shake and some whipped cream on the top two. 2 straws, 1 check, girl, I got you. Bougie like Natty in the styrofoam. Squeaking in the truck bed all the way home. Some Alabama jammer, she my Dixieland delight. That's how we do, fancy like.
When I bite that lip, come get me too. He want lipstick, lip gloss, hickeys too. Kiss me more. We're so young, boy, we ain't got nothing to lose. Oh, oh, it's just principle. Baby, hold me, 'cause I like the way you move. Oh,
say that you lost without me. All my shorties feel like I dodged the county. Cuffing with you feel like jail, buddy. I can't even exhale, buddy. Cookie like holy grail, you know that. You gon' make me need bail, you know that. Caught dipping with your friend, you ain't even had man lying on you know that. Got me a bag for the brick, you know that. Control them so the pays it right, throw back all this cash for real. I'ma make you feel fantasy and whip a bill. It's all I can give you. Kiss me more, we're so young, boy, we ain't got nothing to lose. It's just principle. Baby, hold me, 'cause I like the way you groove. Darling, boy, you write your name, I can do the same. Ooh, I love the taste. Oh, la, 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 la. All on my tongue, I want it. Boy, you write your name, I can do the same. Ooh, I love the taste. Oh, la, 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 la. All on my tongue, I want it.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
You're listening to the RM Show with VOA Africa every Wednesday and every Friday. This is your host, Roger Muntu. My guest tonight, Miss Tambra Ray Stevenson. And I have my colleague, George Sagnon, on the other side. George, you want to come on this side, man? Let's do this. Let's do this organically, man. You're going to come use my mic. He's so boiling over there. It's like, I have this question to ask. You can just come in, George. It's okay. This is the RM Show. We allow ourselves to say whatever, man. Just use my mic and ask your question.
Yes. Hey, Tambra. My question is, today in most African countries, Chinese are using pumps to kill, herbs, for farmers to grow. And when I went there in 1999,
You went to China?
No, in Africa.
you to have a vision for your life and have a mission, a vocation that speaks to that mission. So for me, it's like I had a vision of, healthy communities, and my mission has been through the work of Native Soul and Wanda to execute that. And hopefully those are all in a divine alignment with God. And so when He blesses that pathway, then you are not only anointed, but appointed to that journey. That's what I want everyone to believe and know to be true for themselves.
That's profound. That's really profound. And I'm glad you're saying that. I was going to ask a question, but you just answered to what I was going to ask anyway. So as part of, I was introducing you as a nutrition advocate, right? Mm-hmm. As part of that, you also an author as well, and a food policymaker. What are your thoughts on the importance of incorporating traditional and culinary significant food into modern diets? Can you mix both? Can you bring both together?
It's happening now. I mean, there's an Ethiopian American restaurant here in DC called Duro Soul Food that I still need to check out.
Oh my God, what is that?
But he's blending soul food and Ethiopian food together, right? And you have Chef Kwame, who's bringing his restaurant to Salamander Hotel. He already does the film reunion in August. And so he has his Nigerian roots and American roots, and he's making the blend through Tatiana in New York. And so we have entrepreneurs who are already doing that, showing that I don't have to choose one culture of me over another, that you can find balance and peace among yourself. And that's what I'm doing with my own. Like, how do I embrace not only these Nigerian Fulani roots I've discovered and learned, but also my Oklahoma roots. So I penned a piece as a guest editor for Eating Well called African Heritage Diet as Medicine, and brought chefs and dietitians and food historians and authors to be able to have not only a conversation about this very question, but also about the health of these foods, and just demonstrate that through recipes and storytelling that people can Google and see. Just Google Eating Well and my name, Tambra Stevenson. The article should pop up to read more about that.
To read more about that, we're going to land with this song before we come back and say goodbye to our guests. And this song by George is choosing the song for us tonight. All right, The Weeknd. Let's listen to this song.
Wait a minute, this love started off so tender, so sweet. But now she got me
smoking out the window. Must have spent 45,000 up in Tiffany's. Oh no! Got a bad and kids running around my whole crib like it's Chuck E. Cheese. Whoa, whoa! Put me in the jam with an X-Men in the UFC. Can't believe it. Can't believe it. I'm in disbelief. This got me paying for rent, paying for trips, diamonds on the neck, diamonds on the wrist, and here I am all alone. I'm so cold, I'm so cold.